The dog should have died that night. So should Jack Monroe. But somehow, in a city that forgot them both, they found each other, two broken souls clinging to the edge of the same storm. Jack wasn't always like this. He used to wear a uniform, command respect, lead young men through deserts where the sky itself felt angry. Now, he slept under a bridge, wrapped in yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's silence. He didn't ask for change, didn't beg, didn't look up when people passed, because he knew they wouldn't stop. To them, he was just a ghost. Until one night, something cried out from the shadows, a sound sharper than memory, smaller than war, but somehow it hit harder. If you believe in stories that heal, in broken things becoming whole again, like, subscribe, and share this video. You never know who needs this next chapter. At first, Jack thought it was a trick. His mind had played games before, Kandahar flashbacks, radio chatter that never existed. But this was different. It was raining hard, the kind of cold rain that made your bones feel hollow. Jack had just ducked under the bridge off 14th and Jefferson, the place he called home, when he heard it. A whimper, low, desperate, like the last sound you make when giving up. He froze, then moved, slowly, like approaching an IED, every sense awake, every scar screaming. There, near the sewer grate, a small shape curled into itself, soaked, bleeding, trembling. It wasn't trash, it wasn't a rat, it was a dog, or what was left of one. Its ribs pushed through paper-thin skin. One eye was swollen shut, the other locked onto Jack like it recognized him, not as a stranger, but as someone who knew what it meant to hurt and keep breathing anyway. Jack knelt down, careful, gentle, the same way he used to kneel beside dying soldiers, checking pulses he already knew weren't there. He didn't think, didn't plan, just shrugged off his military jacket and wrapped the dog up. "You made it this far, buddy," he whispered. "Let's not quit now." The dog didn't flinch, didn't struggle, but the tiniest sound left its throat. Not a growl, not fear, just surrender. Jack cradled him in his arms and carried him back to the fire barrel, half full of wet ash and cardboard dreams. He had no first aid kit, no clean water, no real food, but he had this broken jacket and hands that still remembered how to save something. He called him Ranger, because back in the army, Rangers never left a man behind. And tonight, Jack wasn't leaving this dog behind. They sat there through the night, under that bridge, wrapped in smoke and silence. The city roared above them, sirens, drunks, traffic. But in that small pocket of darkness, something sacred began. Not a rescue, not yet, but a beginning. Some rescues happen in a flash, a scream, a jump, a heartbeat. This wasn't that. This was slower, more like thawing ice, a day at a time, painfully, beautifully. Jack Monroe didn't wake up the next morning a changed man. He woke up cold, hungry, and damp, same as always. But now, he wasn't alone. Ranger lay curled beside him, still barely breathing, wrapped in that old army jacket like it was armor. The dog hadn't moved much in the night, didn't try to run, didn't even bark, just trembled through the fever, like his body wasn't sure if it was still allowed to fight. Jack didn't say much either. He wasn't a talker, hadn't been since the desert. But that morning, as trucks rumbled overhead and the first hint of light crawled into their underpass, he whispered one thing: "Still breathing. That's what counts." Jack spent that day doing what he did best: surviving. He dug through trash cans for scraps, found a half-eaten rotisserie chicken in a plastic bag behind a deli dumpster, peeled away the spoiled bits. It wasn't much, but it was meat, warmish, real. He brought it back and tore it into tiny pieces. Ranger didn't move at first, just lay there, that one good eye half-lidded, distant. But the moment Jack placed a piece near his nose, something clicked. It wasn't a miracle, but the dog lifted his head, just enough. A twitch of the ear, a faint sniff, and then a bite. Jack let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "That's it, soldier. Get some chow in you." The words slipped out without thought. Soldier. It felt natural, like Ranger had always been one of his own. Wounded, yes, but loyal. Still in the fight. That first week blurred. Rain came and went. So did meals. Some days they didn't eat. Some nights, the cold made Jack's fingers go numb, but Ranger stayed. He didn't run, didn't bite. He just existed. Beside Jack. That was enough. Jack talked more now, not to people, just to Ranger. He told stories about the guys he'd served with, about dumb pranks in the barracks, about sandstorms that swallowed whole units, about the dog he lost overseas, Mace, a Belgian Malinois. "He was faster than bullets, tougher than nails," Jack murmured once, stroking Ranger's patchy fur. But he still didn't make it out. He never finished that story. Didn't have to. Ranger just pressed his head against Jack's thigh. Quiet, warm, steady, like he understood. One night, as the wind howled through the underpass, Jack had a flashback. Not the kind Hollywood shows, not explosions or screaming. It was smaller, quieter, more dangerous. He saw himself walking down an Afghan village road. He saw the boy with the wire. He saw the pop of movement, not fast enough, and then Mace lunging. He jolted awake, gasping, fists clenched, only to find Ranger standing over him, tail down, his nose gently nudging Jack's shoulder. Reality returned like a breath of cold air. Jack stared at the dog for a long time, then whispered, broken, "I left him behind. I promised I wouldn't, but I did." Ranger didn't move, just stood there, watching. Still, present. Sometimes, that's all you need. The city was starting to notice. The man under the bridge, the ghost nobody looked at, now had company. Some folks started calling him Soldier Jack. Others just nodded when they passed. Subtle, silent respect. One day, an old shopkeeper from the corner bodega shuffled over. He didn't say much, just handed Jack a Ziploc bag. "Chicken livers, my wife had extras. For the dog." Jack blinked, took the bag like it was made of gold. "Thank you," he rasped. The man just nodded and walked away. Tiny cracks in the ice. Ranger's wounds healed slowly. The infection cleared up, barely. His ribs didn't stick out so much. He even started wagging his tail, just a little, when Jack came back. Jack found an old leash in a trash bin, wiped off the grime, clipped it to Ranger's collar, what was left of it. "Can't have you running into traffic, Private," he said with a grin that surprised even him. They started walking together. Not far, just a few blocks, but it felt like miles. People noticed. A little girl knelt down to pet Ranger once. Jack tensed, old habits, but Ranger just leaned into her hand. The girl looked up and smiled. "He's nice. What's his name?" Jack hesitated. "Ranger." "He looks brave," she said. "Yeah," Jack whispered. "He is." Somewhere along the way, Jack started to feel human again. He shaved, once, using a cracked mirror and a stolen razor. It didn't take. The beard grew back, but the effort mattered. He spoke to people, short words, quiet tones, but he spoke. He started sleeping a little better, started walking a little farther, and Ranger never left his side. Then came the dog catcher. It was a Tuesday, late morning, cloudy, the kind of day that presses on your chest. Jack and Ranger were sitting outside an abandoned storefront, warming in a patch of sunlight. That's when the white van pulled up. City logo, net pole, tranquilizer gun. The man stepped out, big, uniformed, with tired eyes. That dog doesn't look registered. You keeping him? Jack stood, heart thudding. He's not stray, he's mine. The man frowned. Got tags? Vaccination papers? Jack stepped between the man and Ranger. He's got me. Sir, we've had reports. Sick animals. Safety issue. He's not sick. He's recovering. Then prove it. Jack's hands curled into fists. The man moved forward. And that's when Ranger growled. Low, deep, protective. Not wild, not aggressive, just loyal. The man paused. Something in Jack's eyes, or Ranger's stance, made him rethink. Keep him out of trouble, he muttered, and backed off. The van drove away. Jack sat back down, shaking. Ranger climbed into his lap like a 60-pound toddler. Jack wrapped his arms around the dog and buried his face in that patchy fur. He didn't cry. Not really, but something broke open. Not in grief, in relief. I'm not losing another one, he whispered. That night, Jack sat by the fire barrel, Ranger's head in his lap. The city hummed above them, louder than usual. Jack stared into the flames, lost in thought. You know what scares me the most? He murmured. It's not dying. That's easy. It's forgetting what it was like to matter, to protect someone, to be needed. He looked down at Ranger. But you remind me I still can. They say you can't rescue a dog without rescuing yourself. Jack never believed that. Until now. Healing doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door or show up with warning. Sometimes it just slips in quietly, in the form of a dog that won't leave your side. Jack didn't plan to get better. He wasn't chasing redemption or some second-chance fairy tale. He was just trying to make it through the day, and then the next, and then the next. But little by little, the world started noticing. They called him the soldier with the dog. Some mornings, shopkeepers left out scraps. Old Mrs. Kaplan, from the bakery on 17th, would wave Jack over and hand him a brown bag. It's just day-old bread and turkey slices. Don't let it go to waste. She never looked him in the eye. She didn't have to. Kindness doesn't always need eye contact. Ranger, tail wagging now, started attracting more attention. Children would stop in their tracks, not afraid, curious. They'd point, whisper, "Look, Mummy, that dog's wearing a scarf." It wasn't a scarf, just Jack's old, sun-bleached bandana from Afghanistan. He'd tied it around Ranger's neck without thinking. But to the kids, it was heroic, a badge of honor. One day, a little boy with a buzz cut knelt down to pet Ranger. Jack stiffened, out of habit. The kid looked up and asked, matter of fact, "Is he in the army too?" Jack cracked a rare smile. He would have been. He's got the heart for it. You in the army? Was. Long time ago. The boy nodded, like he understood everything, then saluted Ranger with perfect form. "Thank you for your service, sir." Ranger licked his face. The kid giggled and ran off. Jack watched him go, something shifting deep inside. They had become a duo, not just man and dog, but symbols. People who never noticed Jack now offered nods, brief smiles. Some even stopped to talk. He didn't say much, just enough. Enough to remember what it felt like to be seen, to be valued, but not everyone approved. A city worker, clipboard, sunglasses, no patience, approached Jack one morning. "You're not supposed to be living here. This is public property." Jack said nothing, just gave a long, measured stare. "You and the dog need to move along." He looked at Ranger. "Stray like that, probably dangerous anyway." Jack stood. Ranger did too, tail stiff, ears alert. Jack stepped forward. This dog has more discipline than half the men I served with. He's not dangerous, unless you are. The worker backed off. People had started gathering. Jack didn't shout, didn't argue. He just stood, steady, grounded, quiet, the way a soldier does when there's nothing left to prove. That night, Jack stared into the fire again. The flames cracked and popped, sending smoke into the cold night air. Ranger was curled beside him, paws twitching in sleep. Jack rubbed his eyes, the kind of rub that means more than just tired. "They think we're a feel-good story," he murmured, "but they don't know the ending yet." A long silence. Then he spoke, quieter now, like he was confessing to the dark. "There was another dog, back in Helmand province. Name was Mace. He was trained to sniff IEDs, saved more lives than I can count. Fast, smart, fearless. We were clearing a road outside Lashkargah. I was point. Mace was off-leash, standard sweep. He caught a scent, bolted. Jack's voice breaks, just slightly. Explosion came from the side. Hidden wire. Remote detonation. He was gone before I could even call his name. A beat of silence. I watched my brother die, and I couldn't do a thing. Back to present. Jack looks at Ranger, asleep, peaceful. "You look like him sometimes, not in the face, in the way you watch me, like you're waiting for me to break, so you can hold me together." Jack wiped his eyes, but no tears came, just salt and memory. "I thought saving you would ease that guilt, but now I get it. You weren't sent for you. You were sent for me." Ranger stirred, as if in agreement. Jack leaned back against the wall, staring at the stars beyond the underpass ceiling. "You're not a replacement, Ranger. You're the redemption." The turning point came 2 days later. It started with shouting. Jack was across from the liquor store, sitting with Ranger, when he heard it. A scream, sharp and panicked, cutting through the city noise. He stood fast, instincts firing. Across the street, in a narrow alley, a woman was being shoved against a wall by 2 men. No crowd, no cameras, just raw danger. Jack froze, just for a second. That second felt like forever. And then Ranger bolted. No leash, no hesitation, just claws on concrete, full speed toward the alley. Jack sprinted after him. "Ranger, no!" But Ranger didn't stop. He lunged into the chaos, barking, growling, teeth bared. The attackers jumped back, startled. One ran. The other swung a pipe. Ranger dodged, but just barely. Jack was there a second later. He didn't fight like a civilian. He moved like someone who had trained for war. A knee to the gut, a twist, a takedown. The guy hit the pavement hard and didn't get up. The woman, shaken, blood on her lip, stared at them like she was seeing ghosts. You saved me," she whispered. Jack turned to Ranger, panting, eyes locked on his partner. "He saved you." Later, the police came. So did an ambulance. The woman refused to be taken in until she made sure Jack and Ranger were okay. Turned out, she was a reporter from the local news, Human Interest, had been covering a story a few blocks over. Now, this was her story. 2 days later, the headline hit, "Homeless Veteran and Stray Dog Stop Assault in Back Alley Rescue." Jack's face was blurred, but Ranger's wasn't. The story went viral. Donations poured in. Not thousands, but enough. Someone started a GoFundMe. A local vet offered free treatment for Ranger. Another nonprofit offered Jack transitional housing. City services suddenly remembered he existed. Jack wasn't comfortable with attention, but Ranger, he took to it like a natural. Kids came to meet the hero dog. He even got a medal. Not official, just a ribbon made by a second-grade class. Jack kept it tied to Ranger's collar. One evening, as Jack unlocked the door to his new apartment, modest, warm, safe, he turned to Ranger and said, "Well, buddy, guess we finally made it off that bridge." Ranger wagged his tail. No fanfare, just loyalty. He didn't know it yet, but the real healing had only just begun. Some heroes wear uniforms, others wear scars. Some save lives with guns, others with nothing but loyalty and a heartbeat beside them. Jack Monroe didn't want to be seen, but Ranger had other plans. The story had gone further than anyone expected. TV, radio, podcasts. Everyone wanted a quote, a segment, a moment. But Jack didn't give speeches. He just lived quietly, like always, only now, not alone. The new apartment was small, one bedroom, clean walls, real heat. It felt like luxury. But Jack still laid his blanket on the floor beside Ranger every night. He'd grown used to concrete, and he wasn't about to let Ranger sleep alone. Each morning, he'd open the blinds, let the sun in, a ritual that used to mean nothing. Now, it meant everything. Sometimes they'd walk down to the same bridge where they first met. Not because they had to, but because that place had become sacred. Jack would toss pebbles into the stream. Ranger would watch, alert, loyal, calm. "Still got that fight in you, huh?" Jack would say. Ranger would nudge his hand in answer. But healing isn't a straight line. One night, Jack woke up gasping, soaked in sweat, fists clenched. The dream had returned. Desert, fire, blood, mace vanishing into smoke. Except this time, in the dream, it was Ranger. Jack sat up fast, heart pounding, reached for the dog. Ranger was already there, pressing into his chest, grounding him. Not barking, not whining, just there, breathing, solid, real. The next morning, Jack made a decision. He took Ranger to the vet clinic that had offered help. A nurse came out and said, "Looks like he could be certified." "Certified for what?" Jack asked. "Therapy work, PTSD, maybe even service dog training. He's already doing the job." Jack looked down at Ranger, calm, centered, eyes full of trust. For the first time in a long time, Jack said something out loud he didn't quite believe yet. "Maybe we're both getting a second chance." Days passed, then weeks. The world moved on, but the bond between them didn't fade. It deepened. Jack still walked with his shoulders hunched, but he started looking people in the eye, started smiling more. Not often, but enough to matter. He joined a local support group for veterans, the kind he used to avoid. He didn't speak for the first 2 meetings. Then one night someone asked, "What brought you here, Jack?" He paused, looked at Ranger, curled at his feet. A dog under a bridge. But fate wasn't done with them, because heroes aren't heroes until they choose to be again. It was late November, cold, early dark. Jack and Ranger were walking their usual loop, down 14th, past Jefferson, toward the bus depot. They heard shouting before they saw it. Smoke, a small building on fire, smoke choking the sky, flames licking windows. Jack rushed forward. People were outside screaming. "There's still someone in there, a kid, upstairs." Instinct, memory, training, everything clicked into place. Jack handed off his coat, tightened Ranger's scarf, looked him dead in the eye. "You ready, soldier?" Ranger didn't bark. He just nodded, the way only dogs can. Then they ran in. Inside was chaos, smoke like ink, heat like war. Jack moved low. Ranger stayed at his heel. Each step was a memory of fire lines, fallen friends, broken radios, but also of missions that mattered. He heard crying, soft, muffled, high up. Second floor, hallway, a bedroom. They pushed through. There, in the corner, a little girl, maybe 6, curled up, coughing, terrified. She saw Jack, saw Ranger. Her face changed. Not panic, not fear. Hope. Jack scooped her up. Ranger stayed close, barking a path through the smoke. As they burst back outside, people screamed. Not in fear, in relief. Sirens blared, cameras rolled, but none of it mattered. The girl was safe, and so was Ranger. Later, as the fire truck sprayed the last embers, a paramedic checked Jack's vitals. "You all right, sir?" Jack nodded, dazed. The little girl was sitting beside Ranger, arms around his neck. She whispered over and over, "My hero, my hero, my hero." The story hit national news. This wasn't just local fame anymore. Homeless vet turned hero, again, saves child from fire with dog by his side. Jack didn't want interviews, but he agreed to one thing: a letter, to be read on air. The reporter unfolded it, voice trembling slightly as she read. "To anyone watching this, wondering if your story's over, it's not. I thought I had nothing left to give. I thought my last mission ended overseas, but life gave me one more. He came with 4 legs, tired eyes, and a broken body. I thought I saved him, but he saved me first." Jack Monroe, former sergeant, U.S. Army. That night, donations poured in again. The city council named the alley Ranger's Way. Jack was offered a full-time job at the local VA as a peer counselor for vets like him. He accepted, but only on one condition: I don't come alone. Now, every morning, Jack puts on a clean shirt, pulls on boots that fit, and walks into the VA building, Ranger at his side, to sit with the forgotten, the hurting, the ghosts in uniform. Sometimes he talks, sometimes he just listens, but always he shows up, because he knows what it's like to be left behind and what it means to be found again. Some stories don't end in parades, they end in quiet rooms, with one man, one dog, and a life worth living. The bridge is quiet now, no rain, no sirens, no ghosts, just a memory of where 2 lost souls stopped surviving and started living. Inside a modest home near the city's edge, Jack Monroe sits at a small desk, sunlight brushing across the table. Ranger lies at his feet, dozing, chest rising, calm and steady. The ribbon that little girl gave him still tied neatly to his collar. Jack picks up a pen, stares at a blank page for a long moment, then writes, Jack, reading his own letter. To the VA, I'm writing today not to request assistance, but to offer thanks. For years, I thought I came home broken beyond repair. No medals, no welcome, just memories I couldn't carry, and no one to share the weight. Then one night, under a bridge I thought I might die beneath, I found something. Not a miracle, not salvation. Just a dog, bleeding and scared, with eyes like my own. I thought I saved him, but I was wrong. He saved me first, and he's still saving me, every single day. Jack folds the letter, places it in an envelope. Ranger lifts his head, tail thumping once. Jack smiles. Come on, Ranger, he says softly. Let's go help someone. They walk out the door together. One man, one dog, no longer broken, just whole and ready.